In this video I'm going to explain my Pandora Media Outlook 2014. As you all know, I upgraded this stock to strong buy for the first time at $7.30. That is where I consider this to be one of the best investments in the stock market, along with the other company, Netflix. At that time I didn't know that Pandora Media could rally so much, but I agreed that Pandora Media, it was a stock to gain 500%. In fact, it gained more, being passed by Netflix in terms of percentage return, since Netflix, as I addressed thousands of times, to be the single best stock in the market to invest in at 50 to 86. Pandora Media, it was, in my opinion, the second, but not comparable to companies like Google or Facebook, since those were, in my perspective, quality investments, or companies like Valero or Boeing. But nevertheless, in terms of potential return, Pandora Media was going to be at least a stock that had to gain more than 350%. So, having said this, in 2014, I'm not bullish Pandora Media anymore, because my rating in Pandora Media, it is currently sell to strong sell. And why do I have rating in Pandora Media sell to strong sell? Because not because of what the stock gained since then, but because I consider that Pandora Media entered a region where it is no longer a quality play or an investment, but rather a speculative instrument. And when you enter the region where we consider a stock to be at a price that we consider to be a speculative instrument, the ratio or the reason to remain long the stock just for momentum reasons, it is no longer justification to remain long the stock. And therefore my downgrade to sell to strong sell in Pandora Media, because I consider that the best case scenario in this stock, basically on a long-term basis, it is priced in. So my guidelines in Pandora Media, I have a short position on the stock, $39 average, and my guidelines, it is very simple. During the course of 2014, my guideline is to sell short this stock within the region 39 to 42 if we get there, or even higher, although I quite frankly don't think that Pandora Media is going to rally above $42. That is my personal view during the course of 2014. So I repeat, I already recommended to sell short Pandora Media to hold. Moreover, looking at the recent earnings in Pandora Media, I didn't see anything that would justify one to maintain a long position in Pandora Media. I think that this stock is very risky at these prices, and therefore the clear recommendation going forward or during the entire course of 2014, and this without trying to call the tops or the bottoms, because when I made that call in Pandora Media, upgrading the stock to strong buy at $7.30, that was when no one wanted to invest in Pandora Media. That was a bear market price in Pandora Media. However, I'm not long-term bullish in Pandora Media, and I already explained this in fact in 2013 to subscribers, that we have seen a wonderful rally, a bull market in Pandora Media, but I don't think that the situation would be sustainable. This to say that those that they pretend or intend to remain long Pandora Media, you can make eventually some money on the stock on the long side while the momentum in the market is good, but I don't think this stock is going to be a $50 stock or a $60 stock. Otherwise, I would have tell you to, or I will tell you to remain long the stock or even to buy more shares, which I fully disagree. So I repeat, just to be clear, that I think that Pandora Media has made, in terms of return, by far more than anyone expected in the world, that this stock is, in my perspective, fully priced in basically for perfection, and the single best thing to do, it appears to me, is to close long positions in Pandora Media and to reverse to the short side rather than to continue pumping or raising targets in Pandora Media, which I'm not going to do. So that is very clear, and so far the stock, the share price, it has been very resilient, and I think that it has been very resilient because you don't stop a train just like that. This is a train, a very high momentum train that has been developing for basically 1 year and a half. It could remain at these prices or even higher for a long period of time without selling off or without crashing, but I would only be interested to invest or to buy Pandora Media, as I explained it in the past, if the stock sells off and if the stock corrects significantly. So for me, for the stock to correct significantly, it will be the stock to sell at least $10 per share. So at $39, that is where the short position started in Pandora Media to hold during the course of 2014. We are not going to do anything other than to add then to the short side. I consider that this stock would have to sell significantly. I would say, I repeat, $10 per share for one to buy the stock. So anyone that is buying Pandora Media at current prices, I consider that you are lunatic, my friends, because all of you had the opportunity to invest in Pandora Media when I upgraded the stock to strong buy, and then it was a strong buy, an investment opportunity at a bear market price, the $7.30. I considered that the normal upside for this stock, even at that point, it would be something like the $28. The stock rallied by far more than anyone expected, and my upside, I repeat, even then in 2013, I raised it to $33 to $37. So we get $38, that is the current price in Pandora Media. So the stock is already trading above my upside, because the upside I mentioned to be, in my perspective, I repeat, the best case scenario, $37. So the fact that the stock has been trading above the $37, I don't see it as an opportunity to remain long Pandora Media just because of momentum, just because it can go to 40 or 42, but instead I see this as an opportunity to sell short the stock, to remain short the stock, and to add to the short side in case there is further momentum to the upside. I don't see this as a stock that goes then to $50 or $60, and in fact I see this as a very risky investment going forward in the future, because these companies, as I addressed in the past, that they are dogs and then they become darlings. I think that Pandora Media has a long way to prove, and at these prices, since the stock is basically priced for perfection, the stock or the company has to report something that has to be wonderful, and it is not like in the past. In the past, Pandora Media to report something that would make the stock rally 10 or 20% in one day, it was rather simple. Going forward, it is extraordinarily complex to call that situation. So I'm not bullish Pandora Media anymore. In fact, I was a bull in Pandora Media, and now I'm a bear in Pandora Media, because I consider that these companies, and bear in mind that in the technology landscape, things they can turn quite fast. I think that the best alternative here on a mid to long term is to have a contrarian opinion going forward, because like I explained, the strategic key to make all these 500% gains in Pandora Media, it was because we already sold long positions, but it was to have always a contrarian view against Wall Street, that they never upgraded Pandora Media at the bottom, quite the opposite. Everyone, including retail newsletters in the US, this was one of their favorite plays on the short side, and all those retail fools that they invested in Pandora Media against the stock and the company back then in 2012, they lost all their money, because they didn't believe that the stock could rally so much, and they kept adding to the short side. And during the past 1 year, in my opinion, they have been chasing then the short side in Pandora Media to the point that they capitulated. So that is my current reading about Pandora Media, is that every short seller on the stock capitulated. They could not ever succeed, because as you can see on the chart, and this is the left side of the chart, is my upgrade to strong buy in November 2012, $7.30. I also called this one of the best opportunities back then, along with Netflix, one of the best opportunities in the US stock market. Although I didn't know, I repeat, that the stock will rally so much as the case in Netflix, but I never considered the best case scenarios. I already explained this thousands of times, that one of the key strategic thinking for successful investment in the stock market is precisely not to consider the best case scenarios, but instead to consider the worst case scenarios. And the worst case scenario in Netflix and in Pandora Media, I addressed in the past at 52.86 and $7.30 in this stock. Right now, I don't consider this anymore a stock that one can consider it as a long-term investment opportunity, but rather a stock that in fact it has been approaching. If it trades above $40 to $42, it approaches, in my perspective, a kind of bubble. It starts to be a bubble and not a stock that is one can justify to have a long-term investment just because of momentum issues. Because don't forget that momentum plays on both sides of the market. There is the positive momentum and the negative momentum. And so far this has been a long-term trend, but we are experts in reversing, as you know, trends and long-term trends. That was the case with just as an example, that the Netflix or the Pandora Media, many others. But our guidelines in Pandora Media during the course of 2014, it is precisely the opposite. It is to sell short, to remain short, and to add to the short side, even if this trades above the $40 to $42. That is the guideline during the course of 2014. And before I finalize, I want to just to give you an example of a stock that no one wanted recently in 2014. It is the case with GCP, and you have been by far better as an investor in GCP at $5, where I upgraded the stock for the first time in the past years, after betting on the collapse, the crash. So GCP is a stock that today it traded up to $8. This is the price after hours, $8.09, while the stock was $5 not long ago. Just a couple of weeks ago the stock was, as I can show here. So why to be, just answer to this question, why to be long Pandora Media if you had the GCP at $5? Quite frankly, I don't understand. So if you had this stock that was a strong sell at $38, it collapsed, it melted, the stock became automatically a better buy. after I quit the short side and after I uploaded a presentation, GCP Stock Outlook 2014, where every single one of you could have invested or buy the stock for the first time in the past 5 years at least. So, do you understand what the reasoning? It is, $5 this stock was, 1 month ago at $5. Ahead of earnings announcement a few days ago, the stock was $5.25. So why to be, just answer to this question, if you can, why to be long a stock like Pandora Media, that is where it is, just because of momentum, instead of being long GCP? So quite frankly, I answer to that question. I prefer, as I explained, to buy GCP instead of Pandora Media. So I'm bearish Pandora Media, and I've been bullish GCP. I'm a contrarian, 100% contrarian in this perspective, and I have a short position, $39, and I do recommend one to maintain that short position in Pandora Media, and to add to the short side in Pandora Media all the way up to 42 or 44, doesn't matter where the top is going to be, because other thing that I can tell you is those that they are looking always to sell short or to sell at the top or to buy at the bottom, you are not going anywhere, because that is not your game, it is my game. And since that is not your game, it is a losing strategy, and therefore the only thing that you have to do is to follow the guidelines, and the guidelines have been very clear, because the guidelines have been published well in advance. And my friends, it's better that you sell, you forget about Pandora Media. Those that, congratulations to all of you that maintain a long position in Pandora Media, according to my best case scenario, that is the $37 that I expressed last year in 2013. But quite frankly, the fact that stock has been trading above that upside, I don't see it as a buying opportunity anymore. I don't see it as bullish. I see it in fact as bearish. So I have a different opinion compared to what the stock was in the past. Even if this then in the end it does not sell off or does not collapse or crash, things that take time. You have to understand that in the market, and many people, they, when they miss, and that was a severe, obviously, mistake for those fools that missed this rally in Pandora Media, one of the best probably that you will see for years to come, as well as the case in Netflix. Those fools, they because they missed, they play the role of the bears, in the sense that they try to call the tops every single week, and by trying to call the tops every single week, they don't know what they are doing. They lose entirely their accounts, and in fact they deserve to lose entirely their accounts, because they are not only useless as investors and traders, as they don't know what they are doing. They are just gamblers. They don't have any strategy or methodology, and they don't know what the stock is going to do. So I'm trying to help you. I've been trying to help you by publishing already more than 40 video on demand lessons, where there has been by far better investment opportunities in the market rather than Pandora Media. When you look at, and if you are, I don't know then if this is going to a bubble price or not, it does not matter, but when you look at the earnings of Pandora Media, you know that it is logical that the stock and the company has not done anything compared to the past. So the current action in Pandora Media in terms of resilience or maintaining the trend is a trend issue that is related also to the stock market overall momentum that is very high. And these things, they don't, unlike most people think or believe, these things, they take time to reverse. They just don't happen, overnight or the following week. Then, the stock is, for example, 38, and then overnight it is 30. I mean, it depends on what the company is going to say next earnings. It depends on overall market and so on. It depends on institutions, what they are doing also. It depends on the amount of suckers. I would say that probably has a first choice. It is basically right now a question of how many suckers are buying Pandora Media, because right now this is about all suckers, it's not about investing anymore. This is about suckers, okay? So right now you still have a lot of suckers in Pandora Media buying the stock at 38, but they didn't want to buy the stock at $20 or 18. The suckers, they came at 38. Maybe you'll find suckers to buy at 40. Maybe you'll find suckers to buy at 42. But my friends, I don't believe in miracles. Maybe you believe in miracles, I don't. So this stock for me, it is a sell to strong sell, is not a buy or a strong buy anymore. And the by far better, just for your knowledge, than Pandora Media, it has been GCP, because the stock was the opposite, like Pandora Media it was a few years ago. No one wanted to invest in Pandora Media. GCP at $5, no one wanted to invest in GCP, my friends, but you have to invest when no one wants, and when I played stocks to buy for the first time in years, okay? Because GCP, as I explained in my perspective, was not going down to zero, as well as Pandora Media. At $7 it was not going down to zero. It could have gone, maybe lower, but it didn't go. And that was the point where I recommended also not forget to close short positions in Pandora Media. It was also the bottom, because don't forget that historically we played Pandora Media from the $18 and a half, more or less, the IPO price, all the way down to $7.30. So there is no risk whatsoever to sell short Pandora Media here and to remain short the $39 all the way up to 42. If we don't get more, then we remain short the 39, during the entire course of 2014. Until the stock collapses or sells off, or until I decide then to close the short. But I'm not going to close the short position just because then the stock is going to sell, for example, $3 or $4. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we have to wait until, and probably a considerable period of time, we have to be patient, and these things, it is precisely that. We have to be patient, and normally people, they are not patient. They want, for example, if they are buying a stock, they want next day the stock to be up 10 or 20%, or if they are short the stock, they want next day the stock to be down 40 or 50%. You are lunatic if this is your reasoning. You never think about the best case scenario. You think is always about the worst case scenario. And you have to have a plan, and that plan has to be defined in advance before you assume a position in the market. And that's what I did. I already defined the plan for Pandora Media. Nothing is going to change. And then during the course of 2014, probably in the second semester or so, I will update with more information. Thank you.